Thanks for checking out Chamber Web TV. This is Cambridge Votes 2014. We're having a conversation with the candidates for the upcoming municipal election on October 27th. I'm Brian Butcher. I'm Vice President here at the Chamber. And right now it's my pleasure to sit down with Ron Koenderink, a candidate for Regional Council for Cambridge. Ron?
Correct. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Good to see you. Everything is moving forward. The campaign's in full swing now?
Pretty much. We're only 3 weeks away, or less than that now.
Yeah, it's getting pretty close, eh?
So everybody's getting their ads out and their signs out. So,
You having a good time with it?
oh, I enjoy the to and fro of the back and forth with the other candidates, sure. And
Yeah.
talking to all the people I talk to at the grocery store or in my neighborhood or wherever we happen to meet where the conversation comes up.
Well, everybody in Cambridge is a voter for you, so it's not like a ward where it's smaller. You have
True.
an awful lot of people to talk to. Yeah. Okay, Ron, let's get right into it. I'd like to know what do you see as the biggest issue facing the region and municipalities in Ontario?
Well, what the biggest issue is would depend largely on where you live in the city and your lifestyle. I mean, for some people in Preston, for example, the dam is one of the biggest issues.
Yeah.
For people in Hespeler, the sudden loss of GRT transit and a safe way to cross over the 401, that's extremely important to them. Overall, for me, I would like to take a step back in time, and I am advocating the same thing that I advocated over a decade ago when they first brought in direct elections to regional council, is to go back to the double direct system, because Cambridge has lost its voice when it comes to regional issues.
You're talking about having a councillor who sits both on the city council
That's
and the
correct.
regional council.
Because when people have a concern, or they have an idea, or they have a problem, the first person that they consider calling is their ward councillor.
Right.
And then the ward councillor has to sift through the concerns and say, okay, well, this is a regional issue. There's not a whole lot I can do about that because A, I don't have a voice on regional council, and B, regional council tends to ignore city wishes. They tend to override and not even inform Cambridge about what's going on. For example, again with the GRT, they made certain decisions to stop certain bus routes and take away bus stops from, for example, people in Hespeler, the Hespeler Lodge. The residents there have lost their bus stop. Now they have to walk over half a kilometer up and down hills and all kinds of weather to get to the nearest bus stop. And the bus stops are being taken away from the mall, for example. They're going to be dropped off at the street now, so people are going to have to venture through the entire parking lot to
Really?
get to the mall facility.
Great.
And these decisions were taken without any input from the city whatsoever. And it was only an uproar from the citizenry that the city was able to at least get somebody from the GRT to come down to city council to explain everything after the fact, but it hasn't changed any of the decisions.
So you think there's a real disconnect when the city councilor doesn't go then to the region and reflect what council has
That's correct, and the regional councilors in the past, in some cases, have heard the city's message and they ignored it anyway because of regional issues.
Right.
And my contention is that what's the citizens want and what the city wants is in the best interest of the city, and that message should be taken to the regional council, and somebody should be there to fight for that and say, no, we don't want that in Cambridge. Cambridge Council has passed this motion. It touches on this regional issue. I intend to put forward a motion that reflects the wishes of the Cambridge Council and the Cambridge people.
So you're very much on side with a councillor doing double duty, doing the city
Absolutely,
and the region.
because it's all one citizen, one taxpayer. So whatever the region does that affects that person also affects the city as a whole.
Yeah. I think we're the only municipality left in Ontario, the only region left in Ontario that has it divided.
Well, I think Niagara still has it.
Do they?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I know that there was only the two, and I think the government saw that it was probably a mistake and has stopped doing that with other jurisdictions. And I would like them to fix that problem and bring it back to the way it was, because I think it's important that the people be heard at the regional level when it comes to regional issues. In fact, my own personal opinion is that the region should be treated like any other ratepayer or business or property owner in the city of Cambridge, that the city of Cambridge lay down the rules and regulations and that the region adhere to them, rather than the city saying, well, we've got these plans over here, and the region coming along and saying, well, no, we've got our own plans for within your jurisdiction, so whatever your plans are, you might as well just set them aside, because what we're doing is far more important, and we're just gonna override.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's another area that I was going to talk to you about, actually, is planning. As you're mentioning, there's actually a two-step process for planning in Cambridge. It has to get through the Cambridge Planning Department, but anything new also has to get through the Regional Planning Department. And they look at somewhat different areas, different things, but nevertheless, any development has to pass both levels. Whereas Kitchener did away with that a long time ago, and there's only one level in Kitchener. They don't need regional approval to develop in Kitchener. They only need Kitchener Council approval or Kitchener Planning Department approval. And I'm wondering, do you think that we should have the same situation here? Do you think we should have the regional level of approval as well, or should we be able to handle it all in Cambridge?
We should have a Cambridge-centric view on our planning. That we are distinct and separate from Kitchener to Waterloo in terms of what we want to accomplish and what they want to accomplish. Our industry, our business has developed over the years in a different way,
Right,
and we want to keep that going. And when it comes to industrial land or the planning and the selling of our community outside the region, I want it to be done from a Cambridge point of view, and the decisions to be made in Cambridge and sent to the region and saying, this is what we want, how are you going to be able to help us accomplish what it is that we're looking for?
Well, you're very good at segues, because you're helping me out here a lot. You're making all this all one big question instead of a whole bunch of little ones. Because I was going to talk about economic development. As you know, there's a plan afoot right now to move all economic development, or to have an umbrella economic development corporation at the regional level. In that case, for instance, there would be any foreign direct investment, any outsiders coming in would be handled through the regional body. There would still be an economic development department in Cambridge, but they would be more responsible for internal growth, so helping existing businesses to move forward. We have some concerns at the Chamber about that. We have some serious concerns because the focus of the region, the stated focus of the region, is different than the stated focus of Cambridge. Cambridge is very much a manufacturing centered town. Not that we don't have high tech and value it and need it, and services and so on, but the reality is we have something like 60% of the manufacturing base for the region is in Cambridge. When you build an LRT corridor and when your stated goal is more high tech, we're a little concerned that there won't be the same concentration on it's hard to bring manufacturing industries because it's a big buildup. It's a big investment to put a plant down on the ground as opposed to leasing some office space. We're concerned about this division, and I'm wondering what you think about it, if you think it's a plus to have the regional body, or should it all be controlled in Cambridge?
Well, I think Cambridge absolutely has to have input into the planning. We can have an overall umbrella in terms of planning, but they have to come at it from the different aspects of the different parts of the community, whether it be the townships or the municipalities. Everybody has their own way of, we've all developed in specific ways over the decades. And like you say, our industrial base is larger than theirs. So we should have a larger say in how industry is approached to bring their businesses to Cambridge, and we should utilize the industry that's here now, such as Toyota or Babcock Wilcox or Canadian General Tower, long-time residents in this community, and they should be part of that to help sell to other industries the benefits of coming to Cambridge. And it shouldn't just be politicians or planning people. We should be working together. The business community, the government community should all be working together to send out representatives and have somebody from Toyota go to somebody in some other industrial area and say, we came to Cambridge, we love it in Cambridge, and these are the reasons why. I mean, we can sell it as politicians or as government, we can sell it all we want, but they need to hear from the people who are actually on the ground doing the work and paying the taxes.
There's nothing like the word of your peers to convince you.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
So I want to see a more Cambridge-centric, again, development policy, and take that to the region. I don't want the region to sell the region as a region per se, because we all know that in the past and in the future, I imagine that they will still be concentrating on north of the 401 in the Kitchener-Waterloo area, because they're building that LRT, and they're going with that build up rather than out scenario that they've got going, and they're going to want to transpose it over to Cambridge. And so far, I haven't heard anybody in Cambridge that's in favor of that in the Cambridge area.
But we get to pay for it.
Oh yeah, we're going to be paying for it, and that's part of the problem, is that we're going to be paying for something in Kitchener-Waterloo that we didn't want and we don't want to pay for, and they keep promising to do the same thing in their phase 2 to Cambridge, even though, again, Cambridge doesn't want it and doesn't want to pay for it, but they're going to give it to us anyway. So I want to go to regional council, and I want to stick up my hand, and I want to go, oh, wait a second. Don't promise me something that I don't want. Promise me something that the people of Cambridge do want. They want a good busing system. They want a good walking trail system. They want a good bicycle system. If you want to get people out of the cars, let's concentrate on that. It's far cheaper. It's more aesthetically pleasing. I mean, we're going to have a situation in Kitchener which looks like the situation in Toronto and in a lot of major foreign cities, where you have a streetcar, a trolley, a tram, an LRT, you call it whatever you want. I call it Rim Park 2.0, but that's just my take on it, where you have a train running down the middle of the street that has twice the accident rate of buses. You're going to have people milling about in the street in live traffic lanes trying to get to the platforms. It's just something that I just foresee as a major problem down the King Street corridor, and I don't want to see it come this way, and I haven't found anybody who disagrees with that take.
Okay, Ron, do you see anything in your mind that you think that the region does terribly badly? And in fact, anything that you think that the region does very well?
I've not been asked what they've done well. Most of the time I hear nothing but complaints. And I think the Social Planning Council, the region is in charge of looking after the more distressed people in our region, and I want to laud them for that, because they do try their best. I would like any system though, it could be improved. I would like to see a coordinator appointed to bring the different groups together, from the mental health to physical health, the homeless, so that there's if somebody shows up at a church doorstep or a YMCA or one of the outreach groups, the volunteer groups, they all have to work together, and there should be a coordinated effort to get the people to the right place at the right time, depending on the issue that they have.
So one call brings all services to bear.
Well, yeah, one call will get, if you have a woman who's in an abusive situation with her children, she should be able to call a number and have somebody on the phone speaking to her personally that can get her help, get her transportation, get her shelter immediately, and then work out the logistics of what to do in the future. And that's the same with somebody who's in the throes of a drug addiction or has been turfed out of their apartment for whatever reason. And that's another issue, is whether or not we can keep people in their homes. We have all these projects in place for low-income housing and whatnot, and a lot of those people are in low-income housing because they've lost their house for some reason or other.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's a way to help them stay in their homes, that would ease the burden on low-income housing. So the region has done a lot of good work there, and there's a lot of work that needs to be done yet. So we'll put that on the plus side. On the negative side, the region, as I said before, when you have a problem here in Cambridge, or Kitchener, or Waterloo, or the township, the first person you call is your ward councillor. So they're basically doing a lot of the region's work on the ground level. That leaves the regional councillors and the regional chair all the time in the world to plan all these mega projects and do all these other things that don't have a whole lot of benefit to the people on the ground. They need to come back to earth and get on the ground and listen to what the people are saying to them. If that had been the case, I don't think there would be an LRT. We wouldn't be spending $1, $2, $3 billion over the next 30 or 40 years. I mean, as a kid in Galt, I remember riding my bike up and down various streets and constantly getting my bike tire jammed in an old railway track.
So do I.
And we've spent 60 years digging up all the railway tracks, and now that the last tracks have been taken out of the roads, we're putting them right back in again. I think it's ludicrous, but that's just my
Modernization.
It's not modernization. I'm expecting next they're going to announce hitching posts down King Street
Yeah, I
for
hope
all the
not.
horses and buggies to go along with the trail.
Just very quickly, I just want to touch on the Waterloo International Airport. There were plans to expand the airport. Bearskin Airlines had pretty much full flights to Ottawa, but unfortunately they lost their right to land in Ottawa. So we lost that service, looking at alternatives to that now. But when that happened, I think that all the talk about expansion kind of went on hold. Regional Council made a decision to put expansion on hold. There was the plan number 3 was a pretty popular one with the public. It had a lot of private investment involved in it and so on. And the Chamber's in favor of building on that airport. We think it's a diamond in the rough that really has a lot of potential for the future. However, we kind of see the decision to put it on hold, just stop completely, as lacking some leadership. I'm just wondering, what do you think about regional airport expansion now or down the road?
Well, I'm in favor of having a international airport here because I live 10 minutes away from the airport. So I'd love to be able to get on a plane and fly to Fort McMurray and with my wife and see my granddaughter, or my daughter and my grandson and her family, and fly nonstop there and back again because it saves me an hour's drive on the 401 to Pearson, or
And another hour walking through Toronto Airport.
Can be if you get turned around or you end up at the wrong terminal.
Seems to be.
But a business case has to be made for it.
Of course. No, of course.
We have to.
But if you put everything on hold, you're not looking for the business case anymore. You need to keep at least moving forward until you decide, yeah, that makes sense, or no, that doesn't make sense, of course.
Right. But on the other hand, we can't, we're already giving the airport $6 million a year, and I don't want to see us throwing away more money before we find out exactly what we're getting for it. I want to bring airlines in here, cargo planes, passenger planes, and I want to give them the incentives that they need to come here, but I want them to stay here past the time when the incentives are taken away.
Absolutely.
Up till now, what's happened is we've been giving these airlines all these incentives, and we're basically subsidizing each and every flight. And as soon as we say, okay, well, you've been here this amount of time, you've got this much business, we want to start reducing or eliminating some of these incentives, all of a sudden they've got better places to be. So we're being taken for a ride, not in a good way.
Not a flight.
So we need to have our people sell this area better to the airlines and say, it's in your best interest to come here, invest in here. Maybe you're not going to make the money you're expecting to make right away, but in time, with the region expanding to the point where it's going to have 1 million people plus within 10 or 15 minutes drive time. You've got all this industry here that's going to be looking to send out their goods.
Yeah.
We need to have you look at the future as we are looking at the future, and not just and stop looking past the incentive part. Say, okay, we're gonna make this amount of money if we go to Waterloo for this period of time, but as soon as that money stops, we're out of here because we want to go where somebody else is giving us a better deal.
Yeah, that's not good for us and it's not good for them.
Business has to be. I'm at the Chamber of Commerce. I don't want to insult anybody, but business has to be as loyal to the citizenry as the citizenry is to the business.
We would never dispute that.
I mean,
Never.
that's why Schneider's lasted for 100 years in Kitchener. That's why Babcock's and Wilcox is still here. That's why Toyota is here. Because the people are buying their cars, the people are working at these industries and spending hopefully their entire working lives, if that's what they want to do, working for these people and being happy doing so.
No question, when you're a full and integral part of the community, you earn back everything you get. There's no doubt about it. Well, one last thing, and we'll do this quickly. What does your region of Waterloo look like in 25 years?
Well, I'm not looking for one overriding government. That's first and foremost. I want to make sure that Cambridge stays Cambridge. Like I said, I think we have to go back to the double direct system of governance, or a simple mayoral council where it's administered by the chair. I want to have a situation where we keep each distinct identities that we have had for the past 100, 150 years, so that we each have a selling point. Because what appeals to somebody who likes going to Kitchener and Oktoberfest and all these things that they've had for many, many years, they may not like something that's in Cambridge. On the other hand, Cambridge has the Scottish Festival.
Yeah.
Now, I don't want to get into an argument over Scottish versus German versus this versus
No, of
that,
course.
but we all have our
We're all different.
identities, we all have our overriding ambience that we like to have within the community. Like Kitchener is busily building up rather than out. People in Cambridge, a lot of them have come from Toronto because they didn't like the idea of building up rather than out. They would like to open their door and see sky when they look out their window.
Spread out a little bit.
They don't want to see a 40-story building on the corner. So I would like to keep it quiet and a bedroom community, but I would like to see people being able to walk out their door, down the street, have a bus stop nearby, and have a government office nearby. Like one of the things that I would like to pilot is something that they've been doing in Seattle, for example, where the neighborhood associations work in conjunction with the business people in the area and the government in the area, all levels of government. So there's a one-stop shopping area in each part of town for the folks who don't want to travel very far, who want to walk down the street, or are mobility impaired and can't make it to a lot of places. So that they can go and get forms to fill out, birth certificates, they can do registration of their children for this or that. They have somebody who is a paid government worker in an office within walking distance on the edge of a park, for instance, so that they can coordinate sporting activities and children's activities and band activities within the park and still be able to do government business there as well. We've lost a lot of government services in this city.
Have.
I mean, you can't even get your birth certificate dealt with here in Service, Ontario. You have to go out of town. And years ago, we lost our driver examination center.
Oh, well, soon we'll be able to just hop on the LRT in Cambridge and go straight. Oh, no, forget that, sorry. Ron,
I don't think we'll ever see the LRT.
Yeah.
And even if they really want to impose it on us, I think we should stop them at the border and say, no, we don't want this train running up Eagle Street and down Hessler Road. I haven't seen a single solitary average citizen say that they want it. You know, again, with due respect to business, the only people who are going to profit from the LRT are the contractors who are building it, the developers who are going to be putting up these massive buildings alongside it, and the investors. And that's fine, a lot of investors are average citizens too, but that's what they want to do over there, that's fine. But I don't think the people here want that. A lot of people have moved to Cambridge because they want to get away from that sort of thing.
But we do have the privilege of paying for it.
Well, we are going to be
Ron, I'm
paying
gonna
for
have
it
to stop you.
unless we can stop it.
Would you like to say a few words directly to the voters of Cambridge?
As uncomfortable as I am in these situations, I just want to make it absolutely clear that I want to bring the message from Cambridge to the region and not be dictated to by the region. I want the region to come to Cambridge and follow the rules in Cambridge the same as you do and I do and the businesses that are in Cambridge do. I want the region to understand that what's good for Kitchener may not be good for Cambridge, what's good for Waterloo may not be good for Cambridge, and what's good for Cambridge may not be good for Woolwich or North Dumfries, but we have certain common interests, with Guelph and Brantford. So we should be looking at what is best for Cambridge and taking that message to the region and saying, this is what we want. This is what our people have asked for, and I will fight for it. If a city passes a motion, I will take that motion and present it to the region and say, this is what Cambridge wants. And we'll start from there and hopefully move forward and get a better voice at the regional level and make sure that they hear us from now on. Thank you very much.
And I want to thank you again for tuning in to Chamber Web TV and Cambridge Votes 2014. I want to remind everybody that for the first time in Cambridge, you can vote online or by telephone anytime between October 11th and 25th, or you can go to the polls on October 27th and mark your paper ballot as you always have done. Just look for your voter registration card. It'll give you all the options and all the instructions. But most important, do take the opportunity to exercise your democratic right. Get out and vote. Thank you once again, Ron. Appreciate you being here today to spend a little time with me, and best of luck.
I appreciate it. Thank you.